Hi, my name is Tobias Goebel, and I'm the Director of Emerging Technologies at Aspect. Today I would like to show you how to build customer service chatbots with CXP Designer. CXP Designer is part of Aspect CXP, our customer experience platform, and it is one of several tools that help you with the lifecycle of your applications, whether it's to design and develop a chatbot or document what you've built, test it, deploy it, manage the deployment, report, and analyze your chatbots. Today I will focus on CXP Designer, and before I do that and show you the tool, let us have a look at what we're going to build. We're going to build a chatbot that will work on SMS for a company called Prime Retail, and it covers the typical use cases of checking for the status of your order. Retailers like to call that WISMO, where is my order? And so the dialog that you could lead with a chatbot will look something like this, where you reach out to the chatbot and you start asking a question. I want to get my package delivery status, and it's going to lead you through a dialog asking you for your 8-digit tracking number and providing you the details of that package. And it also allows you to reschedule the delivery if desired. So when you say let's reschedule it, it's going to ask you what date, and you can provide a date and a time. In addition to allowing this more directed dialogue, the application will also allow full natural language support. So if a customer starts their inquiry with the message, what's my delivery status for package 12345, then the dialogue skips all the other steps and provides the answer, and they can then even reschedule that in one go by providing the date and the time in one message. Okay, so let's dive right in. This is the login screen of CXP Designer. It's a web-based tool. We also have a rich client based on Eclipse. If you want to create your own account, you can do that at evolution.voxeo.com. That's our global developer and support portal. So you just create an account here. I already own one, so I'm going to log in. And I get greeted with an overview of the projects that I have in my repository already. Just a handful at this point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build a new project from scratch. I do that by clicking on the cogwheel, selecting New. I'm going to make this a blank project. I could also start from a template of existing applications to help you jumpstart your application. But I'm going to use a blank project here. I'm going to call it Prime Retail because that's what we're going to build. And what you should understand about Aspect CXP is that it can help you design chatbots on messaging platforms, but also build IVR applications. Now in this case, I want to build a text-based chatbot, so I'm changing the default view of this tool to the text channel. Click Save, and the project will be created, and I will be sent right into the dialog design view and the object browser. CXP works by creating dialog objects that all represent different dialog steps of your application. So whether it's an output to display a message to the user, or prompt the user for input, or to provide a menu of options. There's objects to go to backend systems through REST or SOAP-based interfaces, Java interfaces. We have server-side scripting. We have a massive library of built-in expressions that you can leverage. And then the standard, logical, conditional statements like if then else, case, loop, etc. We're going to start by creating a first menu here for our application. We already have a start module that's in place. I'm going to start by adding a new menu object. So I'm clicking plus, selecting menu object. This will be our initial so-called intent bucketing, where we want to understand and classify the intent and put it into different buckets. I'm going to call this intent bucketing. And as you can see, it consists of 3 sections. There's a message section here, menu items, and options. The message would essentially be what the chatbot would say to the user in case the user started off by saying something like hello or hi. So we could say, welcome to Prime Retail. I can help you track a package or place an order. What can I do for you? Then I'm going down here to the menu items. And I want to define those two menu items here. So I'm going to label the first one track package. And what I need to do here is I need to provide the next step that should be executed. So I'm going to link a new module here, which I'm going to define later. I'm going to call that track package and just leave it like that for now. Give it a name, close it out, save the editor. So we have the module here. And I'm going to do the same with placing a new order. I'm creating a second menu item by clicking the cogwheel and selecting Add Item. Place an order. Next step when selecting this item will also be a module called Place an Order. Now, as you can see, there's text fields here called keywords. So this would be a place where I could define simple keywords that need to be matched or found in the user message to determine whether they want to track a package. However, we want to go beyond simple keyword spotting. We want to actually build a bot that understands natural language. To do that, I'm going down here to the options, and I'm going to select Use NLU. As you can see, the text field label has switched to NLU condition. At this point, let me give you a detour on what it means in Aspect CXP to build natural language understanding, how we go about doing that. Aspect NLU comes with a vast lexicon covering all the concepts of the world, from the linguistic concepts of nouns and adverbs and adjectives, but also to names and dates and cities and airlines and countries and everything that we know and take for granted. It also includes the relationships between those words, synonyms to the word, which domain the word is part of, the hypernym or hyponyms. So for instance, chair is the hyponym of furniture. Furniture is the hypernym of chair. It also includes knowledge on phrases, which we call sequences, so syntactic structures. And it does that in many different languages. This is a screenshot of our Nlu Browser, which is the place where or the tool where you actually go and determine or do lookups of words. So in this case, we're looking for the word check, and you can see that it has several meanings. There's a noun, which is a mark indicating that something has been noted or completed, like a check mark, a tick. It could also be a verb, like to check something, make an examination or investigation. Each entry here has a numeric family ID, as you can see here on the left. To make a chatbot understand language, first what you do is you collect the possible variations of how to ask for something. For instance, in a banking environment, you might want to have the chatbot help with cashing a check or doing a check payout. A technique that we found really useful is to use a crowdsourcing platform like Amazon Mechanical Turk to have real users out there help us with finding questions to existing answers we give them. So it's like a Jeopardy game where we provide them the chatbot answers and ask, how would you ask a question that would yield this answer? Once you know all these different linguistic variations, you determine the key concepts per question and you find the right family IDs in the lexicon. And then finally, you write these so-called NLU rules, and they can look like this. So for instance, to match an utterance like please cash a check or liquidate a bank check or check payout, you would look for the hypernym 117765 for the word to cash, the verb. But you also want to make sure that it is in some relationship with the word for bank check. And that's called governing relationship. Why is that important? Well, you do want to match sentences like I need to cash my check. And you want that to work in all the languages we support. So for instance, in German, the same should work. Ich möchte einen Scheck einlösen. What you don't want to match, though, is when the user says, I need to check my cash, which has a totally different meaning. This is more like an inquiry for an account balance. So even though the words check and cash occur in this sentence, they're in a different syntactic relationship. What we want is the verb cash to govern the word for bank check, cash a check. This is not the case in this sentence. I need to check my cash. So that's how our linguistic knowledge that's baked into the engine helps with natural language understanding. How would you go about building the NLU conditions? To do that, I'm clicking here on the cogwheel and I'm opening the Nlu Browser. As a matter of fact, let me actually walk you through that example of caching a check and see how the engine would reject check my cache. The Nlu Browser has three subtabs here to look up words, to look up sequences, and to test your rules. Let me start by looking up the family IDs for check cache. So I can do that for English or any of the other supported languages. And as you can see, there's three sections now coming up, one for cache, one for my, one for check. So cache as a verb, exchange for cache, cash out, pay out, that's the one I want here, 117765. So what I can do now is I can click on this button, which copies this family ID to the clipboard. And I can go over here to my rule tester and start building out my rule. So for instance, now I can say family equals 11765. If I try this sentence, cache my check, and I click extract, it should match and it should give me cache. Now I might want to normalize the output. So let me try something here like CHK for checking, caching a check. So now I'm getting back CHK. Let me try the same in German. Einen Check einlösen. And as you can see, it also extracts CHK, so this works very well. Now, what we don't want, as I said, is for this to match if I say, check my cache, check my balance, right? But it will, because cache will be found, or will it? What's happening here? It says no match found. Well, my cache means that cache is used here as a noun, whereas this family ID is specifically for the verb to cache. So this would already correctly reject this sentence. Let's try it with check cache. Also, this gets correctly rejected. But I want to make my rule a little bit tighter. I want to make sure it actually that the cache actually co-occurs and governs the concept of check. So the way I do that is I'm going over here to check, and I'm finding the right meaning, which is this one here, 81183. I can tap on it. I can go back over here to the rule tester, and I can say and governs family equals check. So now if I say cache my check, it will correctly return CHK. Now I want to show you another powerful feature of Aspect NLU. To do that, let me switch over to the documentation, which you can access at help.foxeo.com. You will open Aspect CXP documentation here on the left-hand side, and let me find the Natural Language Understanding Guide. As part of the NLU engine, we have the ability to extract data types, often used data types such as date and times. There's so many different ways that you can say or type a date, such as next Monday, 3/7, April 7th, last Monday this month, etc. So rather than building all of that logic yourself, you can rely on pre-configured data types, and we support a lot of them, such as typical abbreviations, but also airline codes, dates, emails, locations like cities, state, or countries, or other well-known locations, money, persons, phone numbers, and much more. So what I can do is I can actually use an expression such as this one, data type equals date, and I can then normalize that into a well-formatted form. Let me take this out of here and show you that in the rule tester. So now I have this as my rule, and I can say tomorrow, and if I say extract, well, today is June 14th, so tomorrow should be 2017-06-15. So that works great. Let me try written dates such as 6/20/2018, and it'll normalize that for me as well. Okay, excellent. Let's move over back to our application. Now, instead of building all these rules out for you here, let me actually go ahead and import a pre-built application that represents this exact same flow. So we have an import function here in the designer that I can use to import a pre-existing application from an XML file into my project. And we have the Prime Retail application here. I'm going to say override objects with the same name because it will have these modules as well. And as you can see, we now have a couple more menu items here. We have track package, place an order, and we have goodbye. Let's have a quick look at the NLU conditions in the menu for these. I'm specifically curious about the goodbye grammar. So I find the by menu item down here. So there is a family 45706, and it probably matches a whole variety of ways of saying goodbye. Same for track package. We now have a fully defined natural language condition here, which will match messages like track package or track shipment or status of my package. As I showed you earlier, the logic sometimes of a chatbot needs to be flexible in that it should skip over steps if the user already provided information. And that's actually what's happening here. If you look at the get tracking number step, let me open that one up, and you look at the options, you will see that there's an option called use input context, and it's set to previous utterance. So that is how we make sure that if a particular data item that this input object would look for, in this case the tracking number, is already present in a previously provided message from the user, such as I want to know where my package with tracking number 12345 is, then we can skip over this particular prompt that would ask them what's your tracking number, and we can move forward in the logic to the confirm or reschedule step, which I can also expand. And you might remember that we also showed here how I can say reschedule delivery please to next Monday. So the whole flow under what date, what time, etc. would then be also adjusted dynamically at runtime given the processing of CXP server here at runtime. As a final step, let me now deploy this application. So I click on this button here, and I'm going to select a new service. I'm going to call it Prime Retail. And that will take this application code and deploy it to the Aspect CXP cloud. I can now go over to Evolution, log in as the same user that I use for CXP Designer, and assign a phone number to my application so I can actually go ahead and text it. I select Prime Retail. I can restrict the channels here to text messaging only and update the application accordingly, and then actually provide a phone number for myself. I do that by going here to Contact Methods and selecting a region for which I'd like the number. There you go. So now I can actually use this number after a few minutes until this application has been propagated in our networks and test it. I'm going ahead now and send a text message to the number I just provisioned. What's my delivery status for package 124678? And I should get back the corresponding message. And as you can see in the flow on the left-hand side, the corresponding objects are being skipped that are already filled, which is the main menu, the intent bucketing, and the input object for getting the tracking number. So now I'm going to say reschedule for Wednesday next week around 5:30. And again, it's going to skip the date question, the time question, and going to jump right to the bottom and says goodbye. If you want to learn more about natural language understanding and how we do chatbot development, please go to aspect.ai. Thank you very much, and goodbye.